We're in the middle of an argument I didn't even start, when he reaches for his gym bag and starts throwing clothes into it, not carefully, not thoughtfully, just grabbing whatever is closest, like he's been planning this moment and finally found his excuse. My name is Harlow Finch, and I'm from Austin, Texas, and right now I'm watching my partner of 8 years walk away from our life like I'm a stranger he's tired of dealing with. "I'm done with this," Beckett says, and his voice is flat, emotionless, like he's announcing he's done with a TV show instead of a relationship. "I need my freedom. I need space. I need to figure out who I am without all this weight." And by weight, he means me, means us, means the life we built together. I'm standing in our bedroom doorway and I can't find words, can't process what's happening fast enough to respond, and he zips the bag without looking at me once, walks past me like I'm furniture, heads for the door, and I finally find my voice. "What about everything here? What about the bills? What about your mom's medication refills? What about the car insurance that's due next week?" But he's already opening the front door. "You'll figure it out," he says over his shoulder. "You always do." And then he's gone, just like that, like I never mattered at all. The house goes quiet in a way that feels unnatural. I keep expecting him to walk back in, to say he was just upset and needed air, to apologize or at least explain. But hours pass and nothing. No text, no call, no explanation beyond those few words about needing freedom. I sit on our couch, the one we picked out together after 3 different stores and 2 arguments about color, and I wait for my phone to buzz with some kind of acknowledgement that what just happened was real, that 8 years deserved more than a gym bag and a dismissive exit. But the silence continues, and slowly I start to understand something that makes my chest tight. He really believes I was replaceable, believes that nothing about me or what I brought to his life was valuable enough to fight for, believes that walking away would be easy because I was just there, just existing in his space, never contributing anything that mattered. And the confidence in that belief, the absolute certainty he had when he walked out that door, it hurts more than the actual breakup, more than being left, because it means he never saw me at all. I start mentally cataloging everything I handled daily, all the invisible work that kept our life running smoothly, and the list is so long it actually makes me laugh, a bitter, exhausted laugh that echoes in the empty house. I paid every single bill, set up autopay for things he didn't even know existed, managed our budget, tracked expenses, made sure we had groceries and toilet paper and dish soap. I scheduled his dentist appointments and reminded him about his mom's medications, and kept track of when the car needed oil changes. I organized our social calendar, RSVP'd to events, bought birthday gifts for his family, sent thank you cards, maintained relationships he claimed to care about but never put effort into. I handled our taxes, our insurance renewals, our lease negotiations, our utility setups when we moved. I was the one who noticed when something needed fixing and called the repair people and waited for them to show up. I was the one who planned vacations and made reservations and packed his bags because he'd forget essentials. And none of it had his name on it. None of it was technically his responsibility, but all of it depended on me, and he never once noticed, never once thanked me. Never once acknowledged that his smooth, easy life existed because I was managing everything behind the scenes. I find out through mutual friends that he's telling people he's finally free, painting his exit like some brave act of self-discovery, instead of what it actually was, abandonment without warning. Our friend Sutton calls me carefully, voice full of sympathy. "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry." and I can hear the awkwardness, can tell she's been hearing his version. "What's he saying?" I ask, and she hesitates. "Just that you guys grew apart, that he felt trapped, that he needed to find himself." And I want to scream that we didn't grow apart. He just stopped trying, that he felt trapped by responsibilities he never actually handled, that finding himself apparently meant leaving me to deal with everything alone. But I don't say any of that. I just thank her for calling and hang up. And over the next few days, I notice the shift. Mutual friends who used to text me regularly go quiet. People who were in both our lives suddenly seem to have chosen sides without asking for mine. And I realize he's been controlling the narrative, making himself the victim, making me the reason he had to leave. And people are believing him because his story is simpler, more sympathetic, easier to digest than the truth. The first crack appears 2 weeks after he left. His gym membership auto-renews, and there's not enough in the account to cover it because I'm not transferring money anymore. I'm not managing his finances. I'm not covering the gaps like I always did. And he texts me for the first time since walking out. "Did you forget to transfer money for my gym?" And the audacity of it, the assumption that I'm still handling his responsibilities even after he abandoned me. It's almost funny. I stare at that text for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, and I type and delete 5 different responses before settling on the simplest one. That's not my responsibility anymore, and I hit send and turn off my phone. And for the first time since he left, I feel something other than hurt. I feel a tiny spark of power, of control, of choosing not to fix something that isn't mine to fix. When I turn my phone back on hours later, there are 3 more texts. "Seriously? This is petty. I thought you were better than this." And I don't respond to any of them. More things start falling through the cracks, and I watch from a distance, detached, almost curious about what happens when the invisible labor stops. His car insurance lapses because he didn't realize the payment was due. His mom calls me confused about why her prescription wasn't refilled. A package he ordered gets returned because nobody was home to sign for it, and he didn't set up redelivery. Small things, manageable things, things he should be capable of handling himself. But he's not handling them. He's flailing, sending me texts that oscillate between annoyed and panicked. "Why didn't you tell me the insurance was due? Can you call about my mom's prescription? What happened to my package?" And each time I respond with some version of the same message. "You'll figure it out. You always do," using his own words back at him. And each time he gets more frustrated, more confused about why I'm not jumping in to fix everything like I always did. And I realize he never actually wanted freedom. He wanted all the benefits of being single with none of the responsibilities of being an adult. Wanted me to keep managing his life while he got to pretend he was independent. His mother calls me on a Thursday afternoon, her voice warm but concerned. "Hello, honey. What's going on with Beckett? He seems overwhelmed. He forgot my doctor's appointment yesterday, and he's never late with my medications, but this month nothing showed up. And I feel guilty, not because I did anything wrong, but because she's caught in the middle of his choices. We're not together anymore," I tell her gently. "Beckett left a few weeks ago." And there's a long pause. "He what?" she says, and I can hear the confusion. "Didn't he tell you?" I ask, and she sounds genuinely shocked. "No, he said you were both just busy. I had no idea." And we talk for a few more minutes, her apologizing unnecessarily, me explaining very little. And when we hang up, I realize his whole family probably assumed I'd just keep managing things forever, keep organizing his life, keep making sure everything ran smoothly, because that's what I'd always done.
I was the invisible engine that kept his world running, and now that engine had stopped, and everyone was noticing the breakdown, except him. He was still blaming me instead of taking responsibility.
I hear about her through Sutton, who feels obligated to warn me. He's seeing someone, she says carefully. Her name is Quinn. She's younger, works in marketing. They met at some networking event. And she describes this woman who sounds fun and carefree and completely uninvolved in anything resembling real-life responsibility. She posts a lot on Instagram, Sutton adds, and I make the mistake of looking, and there they are, Beckett and Quinn at breweries and concerts and weekend trips, her laughing at his jokes, him looking relaxed and happy, living exactly the free, uncomplicated life he said he wanted. And I feel that familiar ache, not jealousy exactly, but something close to it. Not because I want him back, but because she gets the easy version, the fun boyfriend who takes her to trendy restaurants, while I got the real version, the one who left dishes in the sink and forgot his own mother's birthday and needed constant management just to function. And then I realize something that makes me feel better. She's not doing any of the work I used to do. She's not managing his schedule or paying his bills or keeping his life organized, which means eventually, probably soon, reality is going to hit. The bigger issue hits a month after he left. His lease is up and he forgot to renew it, or maybe he thought I'd somehow handle it even though I don't live there and we're not together, and now his landlord is threatening eviction and he's scrambling to find a new place in a market where nothing moves fast. He calls me this time, not text, actually calls, and his voice is stressed in a way I haven't heard before. "I need your help," he says. No greeting, no apology, just immediate need. "I'm getting evicted and I don't know what to do. How did you always handle this stuff?" And I almost laugh. "I handled it by paying attention and planning ahead," I say. "I handled it by reading the lease and marking dates on a calendar and setting reminders." And he's quiet for a second. "Can you help me look for a place?" he asks. And the entitlement in that question, the assumption that I'd drop everything to fix his problem, it's staggering. "No," I say, and my voice is calm, firm. "You're an adult. You can figure it out." And I hang up while he's mid-protest, and I turn off my phone again because I know he'll keep calling. And he fails. He ends up taking whatever apartment he can find at the last minute, overpaying for a place he hates because he didn't give himself time to be selective. He calls me late one night, 11:30, and I almost don't answer, but curiosity wins. "What?" I say, and he sounds frustrated but not apologetic, never apologetic. "How did you handle all this?" he asks, and I can hear exhaustion in his voice. "Handle what?" I ask, even though I know. "Everything. The bills and the appointments and keeping track of stuff. I feel like I'm drowning and you made it look so easy." And something about that statement, about him finally admitting that I did something, did everything, it breaks something open in me. "I made it look easy because I did it alone," I tell him. "You never helped, you never noticed, you just lived your life and I managed all the parts you couldn't be bothered with." And he's quiet, probably expecting me to follow up with an offer to help, with instructions or advice or something that makes his life easier. But instead, I just say, "I did," and let that hang there, past tense, final. And after a long silence, he says, "So that's it? You're just done?" And I reply, "You walked away first. I'm just not chasing you." And I hang up, and this time I sleep better than I have in weeks. Clarity comes slowly and then all at once. I realize I'm not heartbroken anymore, not in the way I was those first few days when he left. I'm not sitting around hoping he'll come back, not crying over memories, not checking my phone obsessively. Instead, I feel clear, like someone cleaned a window I'd been looking through, and suddenly I can see everything sharply.
I can see how much of myself I'd sacrificed to keep his life comfortable, how small I'd made myself to accommodate his needs, how exhausted I'd been from carrying the weight of two people's responsibilities. And without him here demanding my energy, I have space to breathe, space to think, space to figure out who I am when I'm not defined by what I do for someone else. I start doing things differently. I go to therapy, I read books I've been meaning to read, I take a pottery class just because it sounds interesting. I reorganize my apartment to suit me instead of us. I sleep in the middle of the bed. I cook meals I like instead of meals we both tolerated. And slowly, I start rebuilding, not back to who I was before him, but forward to who I'm becoming without him. And it feels intentional, purposeful, like I'm finally the architect of my own life.
His carefully constructed image starts cracking publicly. People notice things aren't adding up. The competent, successful guy he presented himself as doesn't match the reality of someone who can't keep his basic life together. I hear through the grapevine that he showed up late to an important work meeting because he forgot it was scheduled, that he missed his mom's birthday dinner completely, that he bounced a check at his dentist. Small failures that accumulate into a reputation shift, and mutual friends start asking me questions, carefully at first. Did Beckett always have trouble with organization? How did you guys manage everything? And I don't say much, don't trash talk him or air our private struggles, but I also don't cover for him anymore, don't make excuses or explain away his failures. I just shrug and say something neutral like, everyone has their strengths, and let them draw their own conclusions. And they do. They start seeing what I saw, that he's scattered and overwhelmed and can't function without someone managing the details. And he can't blame me anymore, can't paint me as controlling or overbearing, because I'm gone and he's still failing, which means the problem was never me. He reaches out again 3 months after leaving. Different tone this time, softer, almost nostalgic. I've been thinking about us, the text says, about all the good times we had. Remember that trip to Colorado? Remember when we first moved in together? And he's listing memories like they're evidence of something, like shared history means we should try again. And then comes the admission I'd been waiting for. I think I underestimated what you brought to my life, he writes. I didn't realize how much you did until you weren't doing it anymore. And there's the truth. Not an apology exactly, more like a confession, an acknowledgement that he'd been blind to my value, that he'd walked away from something important because he couldn't see it. But the message still centers him, his realization, his loss, his new understanding, not my pain or my growth or what I went through when he left. And I stare at that text for a long time before responding. I'm glad you finally see it, I write, but that doesn't change anything. And I leave it at that. The power dynamic has completely flipped, and everyone can see it. I'm thriving, organized and calm, moving forward with clear intention, building a life I'm proud of, while he's scattered and overwhelmed, barely keeping up with basic adult responsibilities, struggling to maintain the image he'd built. I run into him at a coffee shop, completely by accident, and the difference between us is stark. I'm dressed for a meeting, confident, put together, and he looks tired, rumpled, like he just rolled out of bed. You look good, he says, and there's something almost resentful in his voice, like my success feels like punishment. Thanks, I say, and I don't return the compliment because it wouldn't be true. We make awkward small talk, and he mentions he's still adjusting to living alone, still figuring things out, and I nod sympathetically but don't offer help, don't suggest solutions, just let him sit with his struggle. And I can see him realizing that the woman standing in front of him isn't the woman he left. I've changed, grown stronger, become someone who doesn't need him, and he's exactly the same, just more overwhelmed. He asks to meet for coffee, says he wants to talk properly, and I agree because I'm curious what he'll say.
and we sit across from each other in a busy cafe, and he looks nervous, fidgeting with his cup. "I need to be honest," he starts. "I thought you'd always be there." And I wait for him to continue. "I thought no matter what happened, you'd be in my life fixing things, managing stuff, keeping everything running." And he's looking at me like this is some grand revelation. "I took that for granted," he admits. "I took you for granted. And I appreciate the honesty, but it's 3 months too late. I thought you were permanent," he continues, "like furniture or something, just always there doing your thing while I lived my life." And hearing him describe me like an appliance, like something he used without thinking, it clarifies everything. I let the truth sit between us, let the silence stretch until it's uncomfortable, and finally I say, "I was a person, not a service." And he nods. "I know that now." But knowing isn't enough. I tell him clearly and firmly that I won't step back into that role. I'm not going back to being the person who manages your life while you take credit for being functional, I say, and my voice is calm, not angry, just certain. The version of me who accepted being invisible, who made herself smaller so you could feel bigger, she's gone. And he looks hurt, like I'm being unnecessarily harsh. "I'm not asking you to be that person," he protests. "I've changed. I understand now." But I shake my head and say, "Understanding what you lost doesn't mean you've changed. It just means you miss having someone handle everything." And I explain that I'm not angry. I'm not trying to punish him. I'm just protecting myself, protecting the person I've become, protecting the peace I've built. I can't go back to that dynamic, I say. It broke me.
The first time, and I won't risk it again. And he's quiet, processing, and I can see the moment it hits him, the moment he realizes this isn't a negotiation, this is final. "So we're really done?" he asks, and I nod. "We've been done since you walked out," I say. "I'm just not pretending otherwise anymore." He shows up at my apartment 2 weeks later, no warning, just knocking on my door on a Sunday morning, and when I open it, he's standing there looking desperate, emotional, everything he wasn't when he left. "Please," he says, "please don't do this. Don't abandon me." And the irony isn't lost on me. The man who walked away without looking back is now begging not to be left. "I know I messed up," he continues. "I know I didn't appreciate you, but I'm trying to fix that. I'm working on myself." And I let him talk, let him say everything he came to say, about how hard life is without me, about how he didn't realize what he had, about how he wants another chance to prove he's changed. And I listen without interrupting, let him exhaust himself. And when he's finally quiet, I say the thing I should have said months ago. "You're not asking for me back," I tell him gently. "You're asking for your old life back, the one where everything was easy because I handled everything." And he tries to argue, but I continue. "You miss what I did, not who I am." And he stands there, deflated, and I realize he knows I'm right. He just doesn't want to admit it. I choose peace over being needed, and that choice feels revolutionary. For years, I defined myself by how much I could handle, how much I could manage, how indispensable I could make myself, and it exhausted me, made me resentful, made me forget who I was outside of what I did for others. And now I'm learning that my value isn't tied to my usefulness, that being chosen should feel like love, not convenience, that peace is worth more than being needed. I tell Beckett this when he asks one last time if there's any chance. "I choose myself," I say simply. "I choose the life I'm building, the person I'm becoming, the peace I've found." And he doesn't understand. "That sounds selfish," he says, and I smile. "Maybe it is, but I've spent 8 years putting you first, and it nearly destroyed me." And I walk away emotionally, even though he was the one who walked away physically first. I let go of the idea that I could fix him, save him, change him,
and I let go of the guilt I felt for not being enough. And freedom feels different than I expected, not like relief exactly, more like lightness, like I've been carrying weight I didn't know was there until I finally put it down. I find out through mutual friends that he's watching me from a distance, checking my social media, asking people how I'm doing, seeing me succeed without him. And according to Sutton, he's finally understanding what I held together. He asked me the other day how you made everything look so easy, she tells me. He said he never realized how much you were doing. And I feel something, but it's not satisfaction. It's just sadness. Sadness that it took losing me for him to see me, that appreciation came too late, that he couldn't value what he had while he had it. I hear his relationship with Quinn ended, that she got tired of his neediness, his inability to function independently, that the fun, carefree guy she thought she was dating turned out to be someone who needed constant management. And I don't take pleasure in that either, don't feel vindicated by her leaving. I just feel tired of the whole situation, tired of his pattern, tired of watching him fail to learn. And I'm grateful I'm no longer part of it, no longer responsible for his growth or his choices. And the regret he feels, the understanding he's gained, it's permanent, because some lessons come too late to fix what they broke. Looking back, I see how he walked away like I meant nothing, packed that bag like I was disposable, left without asking who would keep everything running, because he genuinely didn't think anything would fall apart. He believed his life worked because of him, because of his job, his personality, his presence, and it took months of chaos for him to realize the truth, that I was the infrastructure, the foundation, the invisible force that made everything possible. And now he knows. He knows what I held together, knows what he lost, knows that freedom and independence aren't the same thing. And I hope he learns from this. I really do. I hope he becomes the person who can manage his own life, who values his next partner, who doesn't take invisible labor for granted. But that's not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is to myself, to the life I'm building, to the woman I'm becoming, and she's stronger than I ever knew, more capable, more valuable, more worthy of love that sees her. And I want to ask you something. If you've ever been walked away from like you were invisible, like everything you did didn't matter, remember this. Sometimes the moment they leave is the moment everything finally starts working, not despite their absence, but because of it. So tell me in the comments, have you ever held someone's life together only to be treated like you were replaceable? Have you ever walked away from someone who didn't appreciate you until you were gone? What would you do if someone came back begging after they realized what they lost? Would you give them another chance, or would you choose yourself? I chose myself, and I'm asking you, what would you choose? Tell me your story because I want to hear it. Tell me if my choice makes sense or if you think I should have tried again. Tell me about the person you held together and what happened when you finally let go. Because maybe your story will help someone else who's struggling with the same choice, who's wondering if they're selfish for choosing peace, who needs to hear that sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. So comment below, share this if it resonates, and remember that being walked away from doesn't define your worth. How you rebuild afterwards does. And I'm rebuilding, stronger than before, and you can too.